Hello and welcome everyone to this Albion Online Dev Talk. My name as always is Henkys. I'm the Game Director of Albion Online. And today I want to talk to you about Albion's fourth major content expansion coming later this summer, Merlyn. First, let's talk about the key idea of the Merlyn update. So ever since the introduction of Caerleon, the royal cities have kind of played a secondary role economically, but also activity-wise on the royal continent. And with the Merlyn update, we really want to change this. We want to make them much more attractive, much more important, and we have a set of changes that we hope will achieve this. The first set of changes we're planning to introduce are economic changes. So first off, we have a refining bonus. Each city on the royal continent will receive a refining bonus to one particular resource. And basically, if you refine that resource in that particular city, you will have a higher resource return rate, making your resource investment so much more efficient. It's important to note that these bonuses will not align with the biomes of the cities. So there will not be a wood refining bonus in the forest city, for example. Instead, the wood refining bonus might be, for example, in the mountain city. From a game design perspective, the reason for this is to encourage transport and trading. So obviously, to get the bonus, you would have to take the resources from the place where you can best gather them and then refine them in a different place. And from a narrative perspective, this is based on the idea of becoming more efficient when something is scarce. So the mountain city basically has become really efficient at using wood to simply because it's very valuable in that place and you can't waste any of it. The second set of bonuses we're introducing with the Merlyn update are crafting bonuses. Crafting bonuses are similar to refining bonuses, only they apply to crafting items. So, for example, weapons, armor, and that sort of thing. Each city will receive a set of items that it's particularly good at crafting. So we've made sure that we've made a selection that's both narrative and somewhat fair. So for the forest city, for example, you're likely to encounter things like wood-based weapons, like bows, being really common, and you're in good quality there because they have a lot of practice at making these sort of weapons. It's also important to note that Caerleon itself will not receive any of these bonuses, so will not be a particularly good spot for crafting. However, the home territories in the Outlands will retain a really high bonus, both for refining and crafting, and will be at least on par with always crafting in the best bonus city, except for they combine these bonuses all in one place. So they're still a really, really good place for crafting and will retain their value. So these refining and crafting bonuses give refiners and gatherers a really good reason to work in the royal cities. But what about the gatherers? Well, for the gatherers, we're planning to rework the resource distribution a little. We want to make enchanted versions of lower tier resources much more common near the royal cities. So for example, near the forest city, you will find a lot more enchanted T4 wood. And at the same time, we want to make those type of resources less common in the Outlands. Again, facilitating trade and making it valuable to transport these goods through the country. Now, with these economic changes coming, we've also decided to take the opportunity to improve the market interface. Of course, trade and transport are a key aspect of Albion Online, and it's been long overdue to bring the marketplace interface into the new look, but also enhance it with a number of new features. Primarily amongst these are a really good average price calculation based on actual transactions, so that you'll have good reference values for the prices at which goods really get traded. And we also want to introduce volume tracking of amounts traded, so that you can see how much a certain item gets traded every day, to give you an idea what's happening on the market. That should really come together with the other economic changes to make make Merlyn a major economic update. But what about the other type of hardcore players in Albion Online, the PvP players? Right now, they really don't have much of a choice but to base themselves in Kellyan. And this is also something that we want to change. The key feature of the Merlyn update will be the faction warfare. Faction warfare will give players the opportunity to engage in epic PvP fights, full loot PvP fights on the Royal Continent. So how does it work? Well, from a narrative perspective, each city on the Royal Continent has discovered a particular type of magical resource, and that will be a resource that matches the city's biome. So for example, again, in the forest city, you could imagine a particular rare type of wood, or in the mountain city, a rare ore being discovered. With the discovery of that resource, the city finally has the wealth to buy itself free from the king, and they've all done this. And immediately after becoming free cities, they have no better thing to do than to become, well, entangled in a war with each other, because they all vie for the dominance of the Royal Continent, and at the same time, they all envy each other for their resources. Since they don't really have armies, they start hiring mercenaries. And this is where the players come in. The players can sign up as mercenaries for any of the 5 factions, and can then engage in various activities to earn faction reward points. While they're faction flagged, however, they can attack any members of opposing factions freely and fully. So they can attack anywhere in the open world, even in the safe zone. And they can always kill their opponents, and they can always loot their opponents. If that alone is not enough incentive for you to engage in faction warfare, the factions also offer really interesting and unique rewards. Each city will have its own baby animal that you can acquire for your reward points, and that you can then grow on your farm into a particularly powerful faction mount. But you can also acquire a set of crafting patterns, primarily for cape-type items, and these faction capes that you can craft from these item patterns will be the first meaningful choices on the cape slot that we're introducing. So basically, we're expanding the you are what you wear system with a new selection of items that you can integrate into your builds, and that should be really exciting. Faction warfare will also be accompanied by 2 new activities we're introducing. One is Outpost Capturing. Outpost Capturing works like this. You can there's faction outposts all over the Royal Continent. They're guarded by a faction champion, and if you take him out, you claim the outpost for your faction, earning a significant chunk of reward points. Of course, other players may also have the same plan or interfere with you to stop you from doing that. The second activity that you can engage with for factions are faction trade runs. So you can take a chunk of your faction's resources and transport it to a smuggling base out into the open world. And if you manage to get it there, you get it exchanged for a different type of resources, but you also get a bonus on top, so you increase the value of the resources you invested. And if you then manage to take them back to your city, you can, live off the profits. Of course, at the same time, you can only do this while you're faction flagged, so you can be engaged at any time by members of opposing factions, and as you remember, being looted, being killed and looted. So that should be a really exciting activity as well. All of this faction warfare feature should really breathe a lot of life into PvP on the Royal Continent, and should give a lot of players who don't have a major guild that engages in full loot PvP, should give them an opportunity to also get into full loot PvP in Albion Online. We're really looking forward to sharing more about this with you as we get closer to the release of Merlyn. But that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned.